This is episode 27 of Pinnacle FC, Champions League edition. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you the day after my Philadelphia Eagles triumphant in the Super Bowl. And unlike Patrick Mahomes, we're going to be prepared and hopefully be on point and not washed on this podcast here today. Jake, you always had faith in my Eagles. I appreciate it. I just don't think that any of us thought it would play out in that dominant of a fashion.
No. Was it 34-0 at one point? You didn't have it down that convincing, but yeah, ultimately it's just the best roster in the NFL. Up against a team that have won probably, was it 17 straight one score games, and we're kind of riding the luck a little bit. So in terms of if we're relating it to kind of how we talk about football on this show, regression was always going to hit because it's unsustainable to win that many games by such a fine margin. And when you come up against a team that can actually put up a load of points, they're always going to struggle. But yeah, I think that means that I've kind of had a decent NFL season. I know we talk a lot of soccer on this show, but we started the season with a nice pick in the draft, and we finished the season with a nice Super Bowl pick, and obviously your team winning, which is always a bonus.
Right on. Those are decent enough bookends. We'll get to the Champions League fixtures, I promise. And because unlike Kendrick Lamar, I hope that this podcast is entertaining, and there's no beef between us two either. So just had to get that in. One last jab. Why not?
They not like us, so.
Yeah, right. Remember, Bet Smart, Bet Pinnacle. Every market that we use on this podcast is from Pinnacle as well. We're in the knockout round, the knockout phase, whatever you want to call it here in the Champions League. 8 teams are just sitting, waiting to see who they may face next month. But right now, the month of February is this home and away fixture between the next 16 teams in the Champions League. For the purposes of this podcast, we'll run through each of the 8 games. We might not have much to say on a few of the fixtures, but there is a home and away. We'll give you kind of our overall feelings about each and every tie. And let's start off with Tuesday. And this is the big one, Jake. It's Manchester City and Real Madrid. Now, City barely looks like the City side that we're used to in this competition. That being said, this is the 4th straight time that they've met in this competition in 5 out of the last 6. And the games have been really watchable between these two teams as well. City, obviously, their struggles are right in front of us to see. Very easy, very plain to see. Real Madrid, though, have a little bit of a crisis at center back. The term makeshift would be appropriate to describe that position. In terms of their head-to-head, Real Madrid, no clean sheet in 9. They've gone over the 2.5 total in 7 of 9. Both teams have scored 8 of 9. Jake, this is the marquee fixture of this round. How do you see this playing out, whether it be the first leg or overall?
Yeah, I think if Madrid had even one centre-half fit, I'd probably be backing them quite confidently to advance. But as it is, I think this is a wide-open tie. I think you've got two teams that are very, very poor defensively, but are very, very good going forward. So I think we're going to see quite basically like two basketball matches, because neither team can defend, and they'll know that the other team will also be going for the throat. So it could be we get 2-4-3 kind of games where it is just literally, can we score more than you, which would be great watch. That makes me want to back the over total in this first game, over 3.25, minus 101. It's a little bit high, but I'm more than happy to take it because of the issues. Madrid, they're without Militao, Rudiger, Alaba, Carvajal, and at the weekend, Lucas Vazquez got injured as well, who's the backup right back, which means that Fede Valverde is probably going to be playing at right back for this game, which not only makes them a little bit weaker at the back, but also weakens them in midfield and their physicality with what Valverde would bring. And then Man City, their new signing Gonzalez went off at the weekend. He's a doubt for this game as well. So it could be a Bernardo Kovacic double pivot, and that got absolutely shredded by Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, very vulnerable, both of them. City continue to be wide open in transition. Salford, Leyton Orient creating chances against them. So Madrid are going to be licking the lips. And yeah, with it being Tchouaméni and the young lad Asensio at centre half for Real Madrid, I think Erling Haaland's going to fancy his chances of getting at least probably on the score sheet in both games, I would imagine, maybe even a brace. He's got a massive height advantage, so watch out for him scoring a header potentially. Yeah, I think goals are going to come. I mean, even without the injuries, Real Madrid have been really poor defensively in this competition. allowed nearly 1.9 expected goals against per game, which ranks them as the seventh worst defence in the league phase. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a bit of an end-to-end ding-dong. Great watch for the neutral, plenty of goals. Kind of pick your poison. I did notice that Pinnacle have got a couple of interesting markets up. Will Erling Haaland score? Will Kylian Mbappe score? Mbappe's at plus 150. I won't put anybody off back in that. He's averaging 0.85 expected goals per 90 this season. Erling Haaland, very, very similar figure. I think he's a slightly bigger 0.87. He's just a little bit shorter price. But yeah, anybody who wants to get involved, those two players are priced up on the markets, and I think they're both probably worthwhile taking in a high scoring game.
Yeah, very similar. Look, City can't defend either. Like Real Madrid's the one that has a center back crisis, but City, I mean, come on, Jake. Like they're an absolute shambles at the back, especially when they go up against real top competition, which they will. The attacking threat will still be there from Real Madrid. City, no clean sheet in 5. They've gone over 2.5 in their last 9. Both teams' scorers played in their last 5. I'm looking at the Real Madrid team total here, like a goal and a half at plus 106. I think this is my favorite bet of the week, to be honest with you. I know this is cup competition. You want to keep it tight, but these two teams haven't played that way in terms of their recent head-to-heads, nor this season. Like there's goals in these fixtures, in this fixture for me. So plus 106 over 1.5 for Real Madrid. That's my top play of the week, to be honest. Let's keep things rolling. Brest and PSG, two League 1 teams doing battle. First place versus 8th place, and there's a 22-point gap between these two sides. They just played on February 1st in Ligue 1 as well. It was a 5-2 victory for PSG. The XG in that game, Brest was at home, 0.64, PSG 3.95. PSG is rolling right now, 4 wins in a row, no losses in 16. They're significant favorite here. You can get PSG on the handicap at a goal and a half at plus 103. Is that a play that you make, Jake?
Yeah, I wouldn't put anybody off backing that. I think there's a big gulf between these two teams. Obviously, like I said, they met as recently as a couple of weeks ago. It's just a case of how many PSG are going to score, really, because they are playing heavy metal attacking football at the moment. And one player that has I don't know what's happened to him. He's just kind of turned into prime Mbappe is Ousmane Dembele. And again, Pinnacle have got the market up of will Dembele score, and he's plus 105. Given he's scored in 9 of his last 10 matches, he scored 16 in total in that time. He scored 6 times in the 23 games before this 10-match run. So this scoring streak is absolutely incredible. But it looks like it's going to be sustainable because over that period, he's averaging over 0.9 expected goals per 90. So he's seen a lot of good chances. He scored a hat-trick against Brest in that fixture you mentioned. And Brest are just all over the place defensively, just general. All competitions, 1.7 expected goals against per game. So PSG are probably going to score 2 or 3, and the chances are Dembele is going to be on the end of one of them. So yeah, plus 105 for a Dembele goal.
All right, I'll make the PSG play on the handicap. My other question is, can Brest score in this game? Head-to-head, they've gone over 6 and over 2.5 and 6 of 6, and both teams to score has played in 6 of 6. Both teams to score in over 2.5. You can find it on Pinnacle at plus 101. That's an interesting play for me as well, but I think I'm confident enough to just play PSG on the handicap. You know, one of the more lopsided ties. There might be one other, Celtic, Bayern Munich, that might be as lopsided. But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at that. Also on Tuesday, Sporting against Borussia Dortmund. They last played in the Champions League in 2021. It's interesting for me, this tie, because neither team are on great form. Both clubs have gone through a managerial change and have struggled to find consistency. Hjulmand is out. He's suspended for Sporting Lisbon in this game as well. I kind of feel like backing Dortmund on the handicap at plus a quarter of a goal at minus 109 would be my preferred play. I don't know if I'd put a full unit on it. I just think that it's one of those times where Dortmund's really struggling in the league, but maybe they can go on a little bit of a run here in the Champions League. They're a difficult team, especially to play away from home in the second leg. It's minus 146 for Dortmund to advance, so I don't want to get involved in that market, but I kind of like Dortmund to keep it close, maybe nick a goal here to come away with the result in the first leg.
Yeah, this is one of one of the ties I really struggled to pick a winner in, to be honest. There's
It's
question marks
tough.
about both. I think Dortmund have probably got a little bit more quality overall, but yeah, it's a different conversation if Amarim's still in charge of Sporting, because I think that we'd massively fancy them to get through. But yeah, there's too many question marks. Dortmund don't travel well as well, which I think is probably a little bit of a reason why I'm hesitant to get them on board just to qualify. So I could see them losing this first leg maybe by a couple of goals. But yeah, Sporting haven't shown enough at all under the new manager to suggest that they're worth getting on side. So no bet for me.
Yeah, just a quick mention, Dortmund in the Champions League had a plus 3.9 expected goal differential. Sporting, despite some really good results, minus 2.6. So if you're using that metric, then perhaps you can find a little bit of value in backing Dortmund here. And the final fixture on Tuesday, it is Juventus taking on PSV. It's a difficult tie to back. I think that there might be some value on Juventus playing at home at minus 104, only because of the injuries that have hit PSV. The American contingent, Pepe's out, Tillman's out. Looks like Serginho Dest, he's doubtful for this tie as well. So it actually comes at a decent enough time for Juventus, but it's a case of Juventus, play very defensive, Jake. And PSV are a team that scores goals for fun. So this is one of the tougher ties for me to handicap, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they played in the league phase, didn't they? And Juve won quite comfortably. Was it 3-1? So by that logic, you would have to think that Juventus are probably a bit of value, but performances at the back end of group stage were really disappointing for Juventus. I mean, the way in which they folded against Benfica to lose 2-0 was massively concerning at home. They have won and scored, was it 6 goals the last 2 Serie A matches, which is a rare treat for their fans to see that many goals scored. That's the main concern for me, is whether they can score enough goals. But as you mentioned, PSV have injury issues. Defensively, they aren't the tightest. They're much more around outscoring you. And Juventus have been pretty tight. I'm looking at the goal total really if I was to make a play, and I would be looking at back in the under, because I think Juventus are one of those teams in these kind of competitions that generally want to keep things quite tight and play to their strengths. The line's at 2.25. You get plus 109 on that one, but I'm not going to make an official bet in this game either.
Yeah, I'm staying away. Let's move to the Wednesday fixtures. Remember, bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Celtic back in the knockout round of the Champions League. Their reward, they get to take on Bayern Munich, who have come in to some very good form as well. Much like that PSV Brest game, the away team on the handicap, Bayern Munich by 1.5 goals at plus 103 is tempting for me. These are typically too oversized, but very difficult to take Celtic's league form and bring it forward into the Champions League when you're playing Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have won 4 in a row and have gone over 2.5 in their last 7 games. I think it would just be a straightforward play for me. Bayern Munich on the handicap. What say you?
Yeah, again, it's another one I struggle with, because as much sense as it makes to back Bayern Munich on the handicap, the fact of the matter is that they've struggled away from home in this competition. They've only won once in 4, lost their other 3. They got beaten 3-0 by Feyenoord. Now, granted, that was more down to poor finishing on their part, but to concede 3 goals there, obviously it lost 4-1 to Barcelona as well. Not saying that Celtic are anywhere near that level of Barcelona, or even Aston Villa, who also beat Bayern Munich, but there's enough doubt there for me around the way in which they're travelling in Europe that I probably won't get involved in Bayern Munich on the handicap. And I know Celtic haven't played what you would call a really good team at home, but they have gone unbeaten, which is solid enough. They beat Leipzig as well, and again, I know Bayern Munich are better than Leipzig, but I would have said pre-league phase that Leipzig are probably better than Celtic, so that's a bit of a positive result in their favour. No bet again for me here. The goal line's set quite high. I'd be probably looking to take that on, if anything, just because I think Brendan Rodgers is going to have to set his team up very, very defensively, and I think it could result in a couple of fairly low scoring. I remember they went to Atalanta, didn't they, and drew 0-0 on the back after they got absolutely pumped by Dortmund 7. So they are capable of keeping it tight. Whether they can keep them out fully, I'm not too sure, but fully expect Bayern to qualify.
Yeah, Bayern Munich have just come into the goals as of late. They look much more comfortable under Vincent Kompany attacking over the last month or so, 4 to 6 weeks. So, yeah, I'm not going to complicate things there. Club Brugge and Atalanta. if you listen to this podcast, you know what we think about Atalanta. They're my de facto team in this competition. I have no reason to not back the over 2.5 at -111 in this. They continue to set these totals for Atalanta for me too low. I know that Club Brugge has been a very good defensive side, well organized in this competition, but they played kind of defensive, well organized teams. You see, when they play teams that are much more expansive, then things open up. I think Club Brugge have some decent enough attacking players as well, to be honest with you. Atalanta's gone over in 5 of 7, but in the Champions League, 20.4 expected goals was joint highest with Barcelona. And Bruges, both teams have scores played in 4 of their last 5. And if there's multiple goals in this game, I think we're hitting the over quite comfortably. So an overplay for me, Jake.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with that. I just like Atalanta to go there and win, to be honest. I think the price is a little bit too big. You're getting plus 110 if you back it on the handicap. It just looks a big price. According to the underlying data, they were the second best team in the league phase, averaging plus 1.5 expected goal difference per game. Bruges, middle of the pack, just slightly negative process. But as you mentioned, the teams that they played were, I mean, there were some big names in there, like some Milan, Juventus, Dortmund, Aston Villa, Man City. But when you look at it closer, only one of those teams that they played finished in the top 8, which was Villa, and only 3 of the 8 teams they played actually finished with a positive expected goals process. So this is a big step up for them, and I think Atalanta are probably a little bit overpriced, especially given the fact they have attacking qualities in abundance. There's 2 ways you go about it. You can either back Atalanta to win at plus 110, or at the same price, Atalanta to score 2 or more goals, which, yeah, I think if they score 2 goals, they're probably going to win the game. So it's pick your poison, really.
All right. No, pick your pleasure. The poison would be the opposite
pick your
one,
pleasure,
because
yeah.
negative outcome. Anyways, you're following me here. We're post Super Bowl podcasting here. So let's go. 2 more games to get to, or fixtures to get to. Monaco and Benfica, another one of those ties where these 2 sides did play in the group stage of the Champions League. It was a 3-2 final. Monaco had a player sent off at 1-1, ended up taking a 2-1 lead before Benfica to come storming back. These 2 sides generally have been sides that, if you back the over, you've generally come out on top. Benfica 3 wins in a row, over in 6 of their last 7, and both teams to score in 4 of 5. Same thing with Monaco, over in 5 of 6, both teams to score in their 6 of their last 8, and haven't kept a clean sheet in 4. Hence why I'm backing over 2.75 in this one at -113. Any play for you, Monaco, Benfica? I think this is going to be a really watchable tie. Benfica have their frailties from a defensive perspective, but they're a decent enough attacking side, Jake.
Yeah, they really are. I was on the same line as you at first, taking the goal line, but I thought the bigger price for Benfica to score twice kind of dragged me in at plus 138. Digging a little bit deeper, as you mentioned, they're really good going forward. They actually finished the league phase with the 7th best attacking process, averaging over 2.1 expected goals for per game. They've actually scored 2 or more goals in 26 of 35 matches in all competitions this season, which is a really high ratio. They obviously done that in the Champions League against good teams. They've got 4 past Atletico Madrid, for example. And Monaco have been really vulnerable of late. Since the winter break, they've conceded 2 or more goals in 6 of their 8 matches, allowed 16 goals in total in that time. And I think the worrying thing is that they're conceding nearly 2 expected goals against per game. So it's not like it's like a pure fluke. And even more concerning is that they've played PSG and Inter, 2 really good teams, but they've also conceded 2 or more goals against bottom of the table Montpellier, relegation strugglers Nantes and Reims, Rennes as well, who are also at the bottom end of the league, and then Auxerre, who are mid-table. So not even against poor teams are they looking solid defensively. So Benfica, with all their attacking talent, I think that they're more than capable of scoring a couple of times.
All right. And finally, I don't have a play here. It's a difficult one for me. It's Feyenoord and AC Milan. Feyenoord's a good team at home. It's going to be a difficult travel for AC Milan, but Milan has played all these close games recently, and they seem to find a way to edge out a result some way, somehow. The markets are interesting in this one as well. I'm not sure if you have a play here. Quebec Feyenoord for a home win at plus 210. Milan to win at plus 129. The total is set at 2.75, and the handicap favors Milan at a quarter of a goal. I'll let you take this away. I'm not touching this game, but perhaps there might be a better play to make come the second leg for this one. So it's a little bit of a watch and brief for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I didn't have anything down that had me really wanting to get involved. I do think a pro Feyenoord bet would be the pick for me, whether it be on the handicap. I think it's a plus a quarter, so there's a little bit of a head start. As you mentioned, they're very strong at home, and Milan have been a little bit shaky away. I mean, the way in which they absolutely capitulated at Zagreb in the last round of the league phase, where a win would have seen them finish in the top eight, was massively concerning. Obviously, there was a red card in that one, but I mean, you just don't get the opportunity to do the red card. I don't know if you've seen the red card back, but it's just one of those daftest red cards you'll see for a long time. And I think they have that in them, this team, especially with the manager, who's a bit of a nutcase, Conceição. He's not only scrapping with everyone on his bench, but also his players as well. So there's always that little wild card element that kind of puts me off trying to make a pro AC Milan play. So yeah, watch and brief, see how we'll set up for the second leg.
Okay, your top three plays in the Champions League for the first round ties are, Jake?
Number one, will Dembele score? Yes, at plus 105. Then I'm going to be back in Benfica to score twice at plus 138 and Atalanta to score twice at plus 110.
Brilliant. I like all those plays. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that I just don't blow smoke up Jake's, you know what, like that. Genuinely like all three of those plays. My top play, Real Madrid team total over a goal and a half at plus 106 at Manchester City. My second favorite, over the total of 2.5 at minus 111, Club Brugge and Atalanta. And PSG, like, I think that they have a legitimate chance to do some real damage in this tournament, and potentially a tie with Barcelona is upcoming. If and when they get through these two fixtures with Brest, PSG a goal and a half on the handicap at plus 103. Remember, bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Enjoy your Champions League knockout phase football, Jake. Then the big matchups come in a few weeks' time. Nice work. Any parting words?
No, I enjoy this because it's a rarity, isn't it? Where you've got a midweek round of Champions League football with half the teams still in the competition, just not playing. So bonus football, if you like.
Brilliant. Take full advantage. Tuesday and Wednesdays midweek are all about the Champions League. On behalf of Jake, I am Wheels. This has been episode 27 of Pinnacle FC.